So this is my Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Get to the shop. Well, that's better, at least.
That was better, yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is just such an iconic, yet difficult to master, I would say.
I think we have our intro, though, which is great.
Hello, nice to see you. Nice of you to drop by. Welcome to Films and Fika podcast, the 10th episode. The podcast where me and Mao, two pretty cool guys, chill out with ice cool beverages. That's a terrible impression.
That was not great.
I'm sorry. Well,
I think you should apologize.
I'm really sorry, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I did my best. I think he's heard worse, though, to be fair.
Yeah, probably. I think especially like if people run into him in public, they probably try and impersonate him. And that must be so annoying.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's his fault for having an iconic voice, I think.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, today's movie is Batman and Robin, if you haven't figured it out yet. A movie with a well-respected cast, a lot of ass shots, and even more puns.
A lot of puns. It's very campy.
It's very campy. But more importantly, this is indeed our 10th episode.
Woo!
Yeah. Awesome. I'm picturing in
It's
the
a
edit,
commitment.
we should add in some air horns and like do a crowd cheering. So let's redo it. So this is our 10th episode. Nice. Wow. Well, it's as we said in the previous episode, it's a bit of a milestone.
Yeah, I think
Honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
It means that we've sat together for at least at least 10 hours, more like 15 hours realistically.
Yeah.
Just jabbering about.
We do
movies.
jabber.
Nothing important at all.
Well, that's not our place.
Mm,
It's not our place
Fair.
to talk about important things.
fair enough.
But thanks to every single one of you who have stuck with us all through
You
this journey.
Poor
It's been nice.
bastards. What are you doing with your lives?
Not much, but that's good for us. So keep
Ah.
doing that.
Keep up the good work. Soon we will get sponsored and have some shampoo for horses that we can advertise for and pull in some revenue. What?
I was actually on Twitter a couple of days ago,
Hi.
and there's a company in the US called Manscaped, and it's
Oh.
basically like
That's
a body trimmer.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, content creators, contact us. We're looking for new people to pair up with, this and that. And apparently you're supposed to like tell them like, hey, this is what I do. And this is like YouTube, or like this is my podcast and stuff. And they actually sponsor you. Alas, we're not in the US.
So that wouldn't
No.
flow. Well, manscaping is important. I can't stress this enough. Well,
Your beard's slow.
everything. I'm a hairy dude. I need to keep it trimmed, or else no one will approach me, or no one physically can approach me because there's a wall of fur around me. I'm essentially Chewbacca, but with every other type of body hair. If I don't trim, but of course I do trim. So please do sponsor us, any sort of racer company or of shorts.
Yeah, that would be nice.
There used to be this trend going on online. I don't think it really blew up. I don't think it became trending at all. But there were these pictures of like perfectly framed, and they were called manscaped or manscapes. So they were scenic
photos of beautiful nature, and then as a frame to this photo there would be like legs and, well, you can guess the rest, essentially manscaped men with beautiful scapes behind them.
Whoa. I'd never heard of that. Then again, I'm not on Tumblr. So
That's probably why. So anything new?
Nothing new.
Nothing new.
I feel like in some way we're reliving history. You know, there was a space launch. People were all over it. And I feel like it was very 1950s, very 1960s, where it's like, you know, they put up these TVs in the classrooms at schools, and people would, well, yeah, it was a whole thing. Well, it was man on the moon, right? It was supposed to be this whole like, it's the last frontier. It's the last thing that America needs to do in order to claim everything. I guess I don't know.
Well, I mean, I forget how, well, like the milestone with this is that it's a consumeristic, or whatever they call it, rocket. So
Private,
yeah, sure. So in the future, anyone essentially could go to space, or at least that's the goal for SpaceX as a company, to my understanding. Other than populating Mars, I guess. But I'm always struck, since they're like, you're using NASA's station and all the good stuff from NASA. There's like a co-op, I guess. Watching the launch, it was like surprisingly American seeing it, especially the speech that I think the president or so gave, or the president of the company gave, and it was like, wow, this is such a big thing for America, and we are launching it from American soil. And I kind of forget how like big of a competition there used to be between the States and Russia, and how cosmonauts and Americans, of course, a lot of Chinese are up in space, but those are the only countries that really do it.
Yeah,
it's just weird as a European that where we don't really bicker about these kind of things, that we don't. It would be weird to be as nationalistic as Americans are. So I was kind of taken back by watching the live stream, honestly.
That's fair. I really didn't like tune in or anything. I feel, I don't know. It wasn't necessarily up to my interest. I think it's cool. I think space is definitely something cool to explore and all this stuff. Realistically, though, I feel like for all the stuff that they try to sell us about how this is about exploration and about discovery and about all this other crap, I feel it's just going to end up being like in Ad Astra, that movie that came out with Brad Pitt last year.
I love that.
Where, yeah, and he gets to the moon and there's like a subway there and like Starbucks and all this other stuff. It's all about the money.
Yeah, you gotta capitalize on that stuff. Tourism is always gonna be a thing.
Would you go?
Oh yeah, I'm very much down for everything physics related. I'm a sucker for it. So going to space, heck yeah, that would be such a trip. It's super expensive currently to go in one of those zero gravity airplanes that they have, but that would be so much fun though. Something like that, I would totally go. Yeah,
that's nice. You know, the alternative is writing a movie where you need to use one of those and then just making the movie. They get someone to make that movie with you.
That's a loophole, I guess, or a workaround. Or you just become I'm so. Do you want to like bring me onto track of the movie that what's his name?
Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. The movie that Tom Cruise is doing in space. What's up with that? I haven't heard anything other than the fact that Tom Cruise is making a movie in space.
Because that's the thing, though. Like, realistically, there hasn't been any kind of further information.
Movie filmed in space previously, so he's not the first. So what's the point?
Wait, what? What other movie has been filmed in space?
I think in the 70s it was filmed. I'm not sure if it was space technically or just the atmosphere. But But there has been
But like
movies filmed in space, yeah.
interesting. I think the whole point of this is like it's gonna be the first full feature shot in space, so it's all
Possibly.
gonna be in space, from what I understand.
Yeah, why though?
Because he's Tom Cruise and he can, I guess.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
realistically, he's done pretty much everything else, right? He scaled
True.
the building, he did halo jumps, bike pursuit, car pursuit, a lot of running.
A lot of running.
He piloted a helicopter. Then he pilots planes on like in Top Gun. Space, man. That's next.
That's the new thing. But we don't really know much about this film, eh?
No, just that he's doing it with Elon Musk
Oh.
because he is our space overlord. I think what's really interesting to think about is all the movies that came before actual space. What's the thing in our lives per se? So like all the sci-fi movies that came before humanity started
Mhm.
playing with the idea of exploring with space. Like how many of those ideas that were in these movies were actually used and were actually, you know, further developed into what we see today as space technology. You know, like how much of science fiction became just truth.
Yeah, and such a thing as like time travel, how Star Trek is using like an actual theory. It's impossible to prove at this day and age, but how Star Trek is actually like warping space and time, and how they're really paying attention to the science behind it. I feel like it's very respectable. Hats off to the people that actually go that little extra step to make it, well, not necessarily more believable, because you could just do whatever you want with it all. But I have huge respect for people that try to make it scientifically accurate, especially in space movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, if you're doing a historical film, a war film, you need to do your research, granted. But when you're making Interstellar or something like that, you need to use your creativity a little bit. And with Interstellar, they even make an entire algorithm, and that kind of helped out the scientific department, because they have never made such an algorithm to kind of visualize a black hole previously and how it would act. So it's fun.
This is definitely the most, like, this is the nerdiest we've ever gone on this podcast. Like, people are like, oh, 10 episodes in and they start showing who they truly are. I'm tuning out.
Yeah, do you want to talk about AIs next and how they're going to take over the world, maybe? Terminator. No, what about your recommendation of the week?
It's actually, like, kind of linked to what we've been talking about, realistically.
Amazing.
Netflix put out a show called Space Force with Steve Carell and John Malkovich and stuff.
That's your recommendation?
And I haven't finished it, and I know that a lot of people are crapping on it, but personally, I really enjoyed the first like 2 or 3 episodes that I'm in.
Because I saw the trailer and I decided I will not see that stuff because it looks bad.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was really funny.
What is it comparable to? Office?
Like The Office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parks
I wouldn't
and
say
Rec
it's
and stuff.
as good as that. Yeah, sure. Parks and Rec too. It's just fun, especially because it's supposed to be like a satire, right? And
yeah,
there's a lot of elements about the current U.S. president, although obviously they don't name him, but there's just not so casual hints as to who the president is in this reality. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Steve Carell a lot. I think he's really, really, I think he's a solid comedic actor and dramatic actor too, for that matter. So it's fun. I'm having fun with it.
All right. I mean, it's the first person that I've ever spoken to that actually seen it. I was just kind of turned off by the trailer, but I guess it's not that bad then.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily amazing, but you know, after 70 days of quarantine, It's material is getting scarce.
All right then.
These recommendations are getting hard to do.
Well, I'm still working my way through Watchmen, so I mean, I'll hold off on any other new show. My recommendation of the week is music again, but I actually haven't listened much to T-Rex or Trex as
Trex?
Trex, as Baby Driver would say. But specifically, Electric Warrior. That album is super dope, and it's one of those that you just have on in the background while you're doing something completely different. It's like a mood type of a artist / album, and you're just jamming to it. It's a really mood setter for sure, and I've been digging it. It's literally been on repeat the past, even more like the past 3 weeks. I've been listening, just having it on in the background. It's been really nice. Really nice. I've been vibing, as the kids say.
I don't think they say that anymore.
Oh, I'm that old?
They say something like, it hits different. That's what they say.
It hits different.
This album hits different.
Well, but it means different things. People don't say vibe anymore.
We do.
And I thought that I was starting to get hip. We don't say vibe. We say, yo, this is my jam. Yeah.
No, we're not. We're not in the early 2000s. Oh, God.
You might not be. I still live in the golden age. I would like to with everything that's going on in the world, but
yeah, it's getting pretty crazy out there.
I saw this tweet about someone being extremely jealous about 2 astronauts going into space. Like,
yeah, they're like, you did the right thing.
I can see why they left. Yeah.
So, with recommendations out of the way, and the excitement that we both feel over talking about this movie, or at least I do. I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can get on that bandwagon.
Here's the thing about. Okay, let me finish introducing this movie. Sure. We're gonna be talking about Batman and Robin, which is the last of the Batman movie series of the 90s.
Nipples.
It is. There are a lot of nipples. It was released in 1997.
Good year.
And it was directed by Joel Schumacher. It's the second one he directed. It's the last one of the franchise. A lot of people think it destroyed the franchise for 10 years until Chris Nolan was able to rebirth it or whatever. In this movie, we follow Batman and Robin as they fight against Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze. And it
Bane.
Stars.
Don't forget about
George.
Bane.
Well, I mean, he's legitimately barely there, but sure. Okay. Bane and Batgirl also make an appearance. So it stars George Clooney, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Chris O'Donnell, Thurman, Alicia Silverstone. That's basically the important ones. And we'll probably be using the character names, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me your story with this movie, Alga. Do you have anything?
My story?
Yeah.
Well, this film I've seen it many times, multiple times, because it's always been one of those films that has been on TV. And now seeing it back just yesterday, I realized it must have been really cheap to put on TV. It makes sense that you don't see the Nolan movies on TV necessarily because, at least when I grew up, but that can't have been too far from when it was released. There's a reason why you always see those sequels or the third in row movies that maybe didn't do too well, and they're pretty easy to put on screen or on TV rather. So I've seen it many times, and I know it pretty well. But I feel like I saw it with different eyes this time, and goddamn, it's a spicy movie, isn't it?
It is. There's so many sexual innuendos. It's kind of very intense. I have a similar relationship to this movie. Mostly, um, I feel like so. My dad really likes Batman, and he had all four of them in VHS. And I feel realistically speaking, he probably didn't want to show the Penguin and
Yeah,
the Joker
the Tim
to
Burton
us.
films.
Yeah, as young ones. So we saw Batman Forever and Batman and Robin way more, way more. Um, and I actively really appreciated these films. I really enjoyed them uh, for what they were at the tender age of 7 years old.
I think you're not even a critic back then, because you don't
Exactly.
you don't know anything better. But I don't remember them as ever being good films. They were just that era of Batman films.
Fair. Yeah, I wouldn't say. Well, that's the thing though. When you're that young, you don't really say like that was a great film. You're just obsessed by a movie, and
Yeah.
then you just watch it. So,
Yeah, sure.
anyways, so this movie has received a lot of crap. People don't like this movie.
Rightfully so, I would like to add.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It is definitely not a good movie. It is not well written. It's not well acted. There were a lot of questionable designs in terms of
Nipples!
costumes and other production aspects of it. And I get it, but like realistically speaking, this movie is such a um like a mystery, right? Because Joel Schumacher, he did good with Batman Forever. People enjoyed that movie. Some would say that it was a fun pivot towards like kid friendly.
Different from Tim Burton, 100%.
Yeah, but this movie went on a completely different direction for some reason. But it was still able to get like a grade A cast, because we're talking about these people, like some of them at the height of their career, like Arnold and Uma Thurman had just come out of Pulp Fiction. Alicia Silverstone, she just did Clueless. It's kind of an impressive cast. It makes no sense what happened,
And I feel like, well, we'll get into it after the spoiler warning has been announced, but I feel like it comes down. I don't feel like it's the actor's fault, simply enough. There's just so much wrong with this movie, even outside of what you see on screen. There's a lot of things that doesn't really work. There's a lot of things that like creates friction, and it's awkward. Like the entire movie is just very awkward. There's puns everywhere, and that could work, but the timing is off. I feel like it has a lot to do with the editing. It just doesn't hold up, I think.
Yeah.
But again, as a young kid, you don't really care too much, I guess.
Would you recommend people seeing it? Just to wrap up our spoiler-free section of the show.
If you haven't seen it, yeah, heck yeah. If you if you love the Christopher Nolan movies, then this is nothing in comparison. If you love the Tim Burton movies, is it 89 Batman? I love that movie. It doesn't hold up at all.
This one, you mean?
This one. Even Forever. It's man, it's not a good film, but it's not a bad film. I don't know.
Would you say it crosses the line? Is it so bad that it's good? Is that what you're trying to get at?
No. I would rather say the opposite. It's almost good, but it's so bad that it's not good, but it's so good that it's not bad. That doesn't really make sense, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get you. You're conflicted about it.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Go see it. Get some beers. Have fun with it. You can... I'm sure there's drinking games out there for this. There has to be.
There were. I looked it up while watching it because I'm like, wow, there's a lot of possibilities here. And people take it to the extremes.
Alrighty. So that's spoiler free. There's a certain appeal. to a bad movie. So we'll leave that up to you. This is your spoiler warning. Not that you should really care.
No.
Nothing really happens in this movie.
And not that there's anything to spoil either, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, Uma Thurman is going to be Poison Ivy. Like the 2 seconds that she's not Poison Ivy, you're like, okay, just get to that. Alfred might die, but then he doesn't. So it's like pointless.
Yeah. And what's the chick? Alicia? No, what?
Yeah. Barbara?
She's like interested in a bike and like, oh, well, that's a Batwoman trait, isn't it? And yeah, she turns into Batwoman. So it's not really a surprise anything. And on top of that, I feel like, at least throughout the first, maybe not the first act, but the first act and the first part of the second act, there's a lot of explicitory things in the film. Did you catch on to that?
No, tell me all about it.
For example, probably the best example of them all is like Mr. Freeze's backstory. So we just met Mr. Freeze and everything, and like he made a bunch of puns, and Batman let go of the diamond, and Batman had to save Robin, yada yada. They go back to the Batcave, and they stumble upon the video cam footage of Mr. Freeze as he falls into the tub of ice or whatever and turns into Mr. Freeze, and his wife is left there dying of some MacGregor symptom.
Something. Okay. So
we didn't need to see that happen. We could have like gathered it from Mr. Freeze's dialogue.
I feel there's a lot of super like classic superhero tropes within this movie for sure. It feels very much in that vein where we need to see the transformations. We need to see these like origin stories.
That's fair.
And
yeah, I can get that.
But I agree. There's like there's different ways to do it. Burton does it as well with all three of them. Actually, he also tells you how the Joker turns into the Joker, I think. But
yeah,
I remember forever. I remember Batman Returns more. So I'll talk about that a little bit. I guess we see Catwoman become Catwoman, and we see the backstory to the Penguin's past. But they're well written, and I think that's the biggest thing about this movie is that the script. I mean, it's a masterclass. It's a masterclass in writing, or more like what not to do in writing, because it is so. It's laughably bad. Like the first line in this majestic opera is "Chicks take the car." That's it. That's Robin.
That's the first line. And then Robin is sad because he can't fit in the car. He wants his own car, but no, he has a bike.
Which, I mean, last I checked, in other movies, bikes are cool. Like, I don't get it. There's no point to that conversation. No. And then George Clooney's like, this is why Superman works alone.
Yeah. Dude, I like that one, though. I don't mind it. Because that's a little bit of a fourth wall break. Not even, but a little bit.
Well, realistically, because it's a hint, because this was not supposed to be the last movie, right? Like, there was supposed to be more. There was supposed to be more Batgirl, and there was supposed to be more villains. And, the possibility of a Batman and Superman film that always existed before Zack Snyder butchered it with a hammer, but that's another story for another time. You and I talk a lot about first shots and last shots of movie and what the importance of those are. The first shots in this movie are all close-ups of leather.
Of leather. Well, it's a what's you call it? Like a dress up, like a rig up. A suit up sequence when they put on the belt and everything, just like Forever, by the way. I think Forever starts with it or has a similar montage.
Maybe we should have watched both of them, but realistically speaking, the choices are interesting. It's the first glance that we get at Bat Nipples, which are
Bat
forever memeable. They are golden meme material because it was unnecessary. Why would you put nipples on a suit? Like, it's supposed to be a suit, right? It's not like it's not trying to be like, oh, this is his actual body,
Yeah.
right? So what's the point of the nips? Because even Batgirl's suit has nips. So my idea is that maybe Alfred is a bit of a freak,
So
and he's into that.
let's forward a bit. Yes. Okay. So we have the girl who obviously, because there's really no guessing here as the audience, the girl who's randomly introduced turns out to be the Batwoman. Whatever. We'll get into it later, I guess, why and how. But you have again a dress-up sequence. What you call them? Like a
Montage.
There's a montage of when they like gear up.
Yeah,
There's a better word for it, isn't it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Is there?
They gear up. They dress up.
Mm.
And
Suit up. Is that what you're trying to?
No,
is that
not
what
at
you're
all.
trying to say?
Regardless, the first shots, as you said, is of bat nipples, and more importantly, I find they like punch zoom in on crotches and on asses, and then they sit there on the ass, and they're like, yeah, George Clooney. Mm-hmm. And then
100%.
wow, and like an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, Batwoman has her dress up, gear up, whatever the fuck it's called. And then you land on punch, zoom in, tits. And there's just tits on the screen. The suit is not only nipples, it's like tits. It's insane.
Yes.
It's like
I feel like
2 cups popping out of her chest, and the costume is wow. Why and how? Like, you thought the nipples were bad on Batman and Robin, but Batwoman has full on tits. I was in
insane.
shock, or as the
You were in
kids
shock.
say, I was shooketh. I think I was face palming throughout the half of this film. Insane.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I feel there's a lot of that.
Mhm.
A lot of inexplicable stuff. Like, so back to the beginning of the film, they exit the Batcave. Commissioner Gordon in the most.
I love
like-
Commissioner Gordon in this one. I feel like Christopher Nolan is making him such a big deal, but in these films, he's just there. He has
He's
his
just there.
mustache. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of makes sense also after kind of your interactions with him as to why he relies on Batman, because you're like, you're definitely not a great detective, sir. I'm sorry. So they're on their way, and Commissioner Gordon is like, Mr. Freeze is the new villain. Like, he just came out of nowhere. We don't know what his deal is, but he's freezing a museum. And then fast forward, they get to the museum. Batman does this like slide down a dinosaur that really reminded me of the Flintstones, but that's just me.
It is fairly Flintstone-like, yeah.
And at some point, because everything is frozen, both Batman and Robin have to like get on ice skates. And I'm like, okay, I'm all for the Bat gadgets. All right, I can get down with that. But why would their boots be equipped with ice skates? Like, it makes no sense.
Because it's not even like they have to go through and like press multiple buttons and then they pop out. They just put their feet up and then skates. There's no other question. There's no room for roller skates. No, ice skates. Boop.
Yeah, that's it. And it's insane because it's insane that happens, because it speaks to like a premeditation. Like, one of them was like, dude, if we ever come across a dude that just freezes things, we need these. On the other side of that, all of Mr. Freeze's minions, which is a great thing about this movie, like, and most of the movies in this era, it's like villains have minions, like actual like cliche dumb minions. they're all also wearing ice skates.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, like, did they walk there and then put them on? Or like, what happens if they go to a bank and Mr. Freeze doesn't freeze all of the floor? Like, it's so...
That bothers you?
It
Out of
bothers me.
all of these things, like for example, the dinosaur crumbling to pieces as it freezes to ice, that bothers you?
I don't know. Here's the thing about that dinosaur. I think what's really cool is that as it's crumbling, there's a dinosaur sound effect, as if like it was it was roaring.
Yeah.
And there's so many of those. Like the sound design for this movie
The
is so
sound design.
cartoony.
Oh my god.
It is so cartoony. It's like the 60s TV show
Mm-hmm.
of Batman. Because it's like it legitimately is only missing like the whole like boom, pow things that came on screen.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's interesting that you bring it up, because I was kind of like reflecting back on the film. I was thinking, what is it that the 60s show did so right that this movie is trying to be, but it doesn't work?
I feel it has to do with the fact that they were trying to still live and inhabit the universe that Tim Burton had created, but they
Which
wanted
is-
to change the rules so much, right? So like, because you've established this previous tone in all the other movies, and then you want to keep that aesthetic, but you want to change the tone. So it's like a clash, because our brain is like, but everything about the production design is Tim Burton, you know? Which, like, Tim Burton's vision for Gotham City is so good. I love it. I love I love everything about it. But
And it's not necessarily Tim Burton-esque. It's a perfect mix between the two. Batman and Tim Burton. It just works.
yeah. So here's realistically what went down in the shit show that became this movie. Apparently, on the first day of the set, the studio heads came down to the set to visit Joel Schumacher, and they were like, "We want you to make this movie toy-tastic or toyable or something with the word toy in it."
Yeah.
And they were like, "We don't care what's in the movie. We don't care what you do with it, because the box office is not as important as all the money that we're going to make from toys and bed sheets and lunchboxes and all this other stuff."
Well,
And I feel that shows.
well, boy, did that backfire in that case.
Yeah, because it makes no sense, right? Because they killed the franchise.
No, I feel
No,
it makes sense. Like, look at Frozen. Do you think that their revenue is from the tickets that they sold in theaters? Heck no. The amount of clothing pieces and toys and everything from Frozen, insane.
Yes.
They probably hoped for something similar here, but obviously,
Yeah, for sure. But
movie
the
was
difference
crap.
being the movie, the difference is that Frozen 2, for the people who liked Frozen, because I'm not on that train, but
Did you see
Frozen
Frozen 2? Frozen 2 was a
Fuck
good
no.
sequel.
that's what I mean, though,
Mhm.
right? Like, people who liked the first Frozen were excited about a second one. And it's not like Disney was like, okay, we need to put a second Frozen in theaters next year. Because that's basically what happened with this. Like, this came out 2 years after Forever, which is a crazy turnaround, even especially for those times. It's crazy now, but it's even crazier for those times. So they really didn't give a shit. And I would love to have been like a fly on the wall for any of these like meetings that they had. It's like, did they hire 3 to 4 writers, put them in a room, and they were like, so we need puns. We need about 40 to 50 puns. They need, like, they have to do with ice. So
Because
go ahead.
Mr. Freeze is the main person that delivers these puns.
Oh yeah,
Amazing. I love it.
they are insane. And here's the thing about like Schwarzenegger. You can say a lot of stuff about him, good and bad, but I feel like this is just insane how bad he is in this.
Well, Well, that's another thing I kind of want to talk about is how, like, I don't think it's the actor's fault. I mean, you have fucking George Clooney, you have Arnold. You can't go wrong with the cast,
Yeah,
but yet you do. I think it's because of directing and writing. I think
for sure.
directing went pretty poorly because you put a dope ass masculine, musculous, fucking what was his price like? The man of the world,
Bodybuilder.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
he was like,
yeah, he's a.
whatever price he got.
Mhm.
You got this guy to become a essentially comic relief.
Yeah,
Realistically, Bane is the comic relief, which is so ironic again because he's supposed to be the big muscular dude, yada yada. But
he's not even in the movie that much.
I feel like it comes down a lot to directing, that the acting is just not coming through. His vision was just so far gone. Again, with they're trying to blend the Tim Burton-esque Batman vibe that they had. I think you're right about that. But like, my main thoughts about that is like, would I show this movie to my kids? I would definitely not show Tim Burton's take on a Batman to my kids, even though Batman as a character is very kid friendly. And of course, they're trying to make it more approachable. You need to go like tweens, maybe not even that, like teenagers, and they would be adult enough to go through not necessarily the darkness that Tim Burton is trying to go at, that kind of an angle, but more like just, again, there's a lot of sexual innuendos, for example. I wouldn't necessarily show this movie to some kids in their early teenage years, possibly later teenage years. Like, it's like, ugh. So who's the movie for, right? And so it comes down to the characters and directing the characters of like, who's our audience? Well, I don't really know. Well, we have a bunch of puns in the writing, so that's cool. And then they just go for it. And I feel like ideally that's why it falls flat.
No, of course. And here's the thing. I don't like necessarily the idea that as an audience, it's easy to pinpoint everything on the director, especially when it comes to these type of franchise movies, because
big franchise, Warner Brothers behind it.
There's a lot of studio involvement, and I feel like the reason why Nolan got to make the movies that he got to make was because I think Warner Brothers realized that they fucked up. And I feel like there's a lot of meddling in here that maybe just drove Schumacher to really not give a crap. There's an audio commentary on the Blu-ray for this movie, and I would really like to check it out. I didn't have the time, but I think it'd be really interesting to like see the take on everything that happens. Because nothing in this movie makes sense, right? Like, it's just why does he need diamonds? Like, why diamonds? This is the first and last time I've heard of diamonds as a power source.
Yeah.
And this might just be me being an ignorant in terms of science. Maybe this is a thing that happens. Like, maybe diamonds are an actually good power source. That's not up for me to decide. But it's like,
it is carbon. You can burn it. But
and it's also like crazy because he needs like big, like perfectly like classic diamonds or whatever. And he has this whole gun and he like inserts them into the holes, but it doesn't look like they're very secure. Like, it just fucking A.
Can you not just let that pass? Because it's a very typical villain trope of looking for perfectly shaped diamonds, and they're valuable.
I feel like a lot of what this movie has against it is that all of these superhero movie tropes are outdated nowadays. We don't see those anymore, right? We don't see villains monologuing per se, which Freeze and Ivy do a lot. And like in the middle of a room, like
by themselves.
Yeah, we're like skipping ahead because nothing really happens. But after Uma Thurman becomes Poison Ivy, she goes to Gotham City and she talks to Bruce Wayne, and they're talking. They have this whole like thing, and then she turns around, starts walking away. She's still in a room
Yeah.
full of people, and she starts detailing her plan to herself. And I'm like, guys, at least have her say her plan to Bane. You know, at least in that sense, you have
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But no, they just talk to themselves like evil mustache twirling villains. It's like, and then the world will be mine. I think Poison Ivy in this movie, for some reason, like I feel like yes, they're all campy and they're all doing this whole thing, but I feel like Uma Thurman really took it to the next level.
Oh yeah.
I feel like she's in a completely different movie. She's so much more like theatrical and very, I don't know. Maybe it's because her suit is not as restricting as Freeze's or Batman and Robin's,
Mhm.
and then she can move more. Which is actually something else that we could talk about, how these suits were made not in a great way.
Yeah.
Which meant that the fighting choreography had to be adjusted to how the suits and how they could move within the suits. And that's why in this movie, everyone kicks. And that's most of what they do. Like their fight style is kicking. That's it. Like there's a point where Batman actually like jumps on top of something so that he can keep kicking Mr. Freeze. It's insane.
I feel like that doesn't bother me too much. Like the entire cartoony aspect of the movie, I can get with that.
Okay.
And the kicking style kind of comes with it. It's just the blend between the two, it doesn't really work out. But there's this very iconic scene when Batman has to turn his entire torso around to just look. He can't just like move his eyeballs because he's so limited to his. He has to turn his entire torso in order to look at a different character. It's insane. And the nipples.
Yeah.
The nipples are pretty.
I will say this about this movie. There's sort of a charm, at least for me, in regards to how light-hearted everything is within the story and within the tone and everything that they were, I would say, going for, because that's the final result that we see. So,
Well, yeah.
There's something kind of refreshing, like today's superhero movies are so serious in so many different ways. And don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on today's superhero movies. I enjoy them. I'm a Marvel fan and all of this other stuff, but there was something nice about this like cheesy, like cartoony aspect of a superhero, you know, because realistically speaking, before the 90s, before Watchmen and V for Vendetta and all of these other graphic novels came out, superheroes were cartoony and silly and campy because it were supposed to be this like escape. So I did find that kind of refreshing, and there's something cool about the gadgets that Batman gets to use that don't really exist anymore. You know, like all these like the bat laser and the Batmobile and everything is bats, and I think that's cool.
And if
until when he pulls out like his credit card, that was.
I think he calls it like the bat card.
Yeah.
Oh my, that shot! Oh my god!
And the expiration date says forever.
No, I agree with you. Like from the 60s show, shark repellent has always been a thing. And they're playing off of that. And it's not it's not overly exaggerated. Of course, Batman has a fucking buzz saw that cuts through vines in order to get out of. Of course, they have ice skates on beneath their shoes and like
Bat warmers.
yeah, just like small hand warmers, but shaped as a bat. Yeah, sure. I'm all aboard with that. The comic aspect, but it just doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
You gotta acknowledge that with this film, they're stepping it up from forever. It's the next level.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Well, there's so many, and it comes back to the studio really wanting to sell them toys because you know you could have like Batman and he comes with all of these like gadgets and stuff, and then I feel like one of the biggest takeaways of their toy selling mindset is the fact that all the characters have costume changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something you don't really see anymore, you know? Like
That's right. This is probably one of those films that is very, very producer headed, where the most creative choices are from a producer's perspective, and that is to gain revenue, to sell toys. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
Yeah. Well, that's why they have like, well, we'll get to that when we get to the end. What were you going to say?
No, like everything from the characters, from Bane's character design to the costumes. As you say, oh yeah, that's true. Poison Ivy changed his costumes like 3 or 4 times. That's insane. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Like, can we talk about the art direction or the art design? It doesn't look good. Everything looks like plastic. It's awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's basically that.
Yeah.
This movie just doesn't come through. And it's really interesting to me, actually, how you're able to do things in animation that you're not able to do in live action, and finding the perfect blend between the two. I think Wes Anderson is on a very good path. But Batman and Robin is simply enough, not even coming close.
Well, and here's the thing. I feel like, realistically speaking, both of these villains are their powers per se, or like the way that they attack. They are very visual effects heavy, and I feel like if you were to do a Batman movie in this same like vein, in terms of
you're talking about like VFX, CGI, yeah.
I feel like, well, because that adds to the silliness of it, right? The amount of visual effects that this movie has. And then some of them are like insane. Some of them look good, surprisingly. Some of them really do.
And there's a few,
for example,
puppetry and even stop motion at some points, I think. And it looks pretty solid. And the VFX at some points work. Like, for example, when Poison Ivy blows out her love's kiss, whatever, it works. But then you come when she grows an entire plant,
that was rough. Yeah, no shading. Lighting is all wrong and it's weird. But here's the thing, and it works when she is throwing out all of her pheromones and stuff, which you have to give them credit, man. Like they are sticking to the comics. They're sticking to this whole universe created before them. But there's a good way to do that and a wrong way to do that. But anyways,
an adaptation doesn't mean ripping it completely off.
Yeah, but you know, it and this is what I mean by Uma Thurman being so like dramatic and so like out there in this villainy, whatever she's doing. It's like when she blows these pheromones, what are people thinking in this movie? It's like,
that didn't even come to mind, but yeah.
It's like, because it's not like she blows a kiss and like hides it that way. No, she just like blows on her hand or something. And I mean, Batman is supposed to be this like master detective, and it takes him most of this movie to realize that he's under the effects of a drug. Come on. Or that Alfred is super fucking like sick and dying. Like, how self-absorbed are you, bro?
I think you could argue that he picked up on it, but didn't reveal it to Robin until later. But yeah.
Robin, dude. I feel this movie is the reason why people hate Robin.
Do we agree that his performance is the worst?
It's the worst one.
It's the worst one.
People say that it tanked his career. Like, he was in a good place before this movie. Like, he was going up, I guess. That's why he's like a big, like, you know, he's actually also part of the whole idea that this cast is good.
Yeah. But again,
yikes.
Could it have been because of the writing? Could it have been because of the direction? What's his motivation when he feels this like disbelief towards Batman, and how like, no, you just want Poison Ivy to yourself? Like, what's his motivation then? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Do you think the director has a better answer?
Well, probably not. You know, because I feel here's the thing about the script. The script is written mostly, from what I understand, by a guy named Akira Goldsman. And Akiva is what people would call a script doctor. For those of you who don't know, it's basically this person who gets paid a whole bunch of money by the studio to be like, the studio comes up to them and they're like, hey, we have the script. We want to shoot it in a couple months. Give us 100 pages of whatever. And sometimes it's fine. Like, that's a thing that works. But on the other hand, that's why you get movies like Transformers: The Last Knight, which is something that he also wrote.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Really?
He wrote that. He wrote Batman Forever. He wrote iRobot. You know?
Mediocre-ish
but he also wrote like
films, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like, and no offense to the guy, I feel like there's different types of writers, and there's definitely the people who are like just really good at writing, and writing is what they like doing, and it's never like, it's not always necessarily about the art aspect of writing. And I feel when you combine a very greedy studio or producer, because we don't know, but whatever, so a very greedy studio with a writer who's just doing it to write, and you know, all of these other things that came together, this is the type of movie that happens. You know, this is a prime example of why there has to be some artistry behind a movie, behind entertainment overall, because it helps capture people's attentions. You know, at the time, some of these effects, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, there was a lot going for this movie, but because the story isn't there, and because the writing is definitely not there, because okay, dude, when when Barbara shows up, she's in her school uniform, right? But she's supposed to go to school in England. So you're telling me that she flew all the way to America in her high school uniform? Like,
well, it's sexy though, you know, the sex appeal. Of course. It sells, you know.
And all of these little things make no sense. Like, what's her purpose there? Like, she got expelled because she became a rebellious child after the death of her parents. So she gets expelled, and her first thought is like, okay, I don't have to worry about school anymore. I'm going to go free my uncle from slavery, because that's what she feels, right? Like, I'm going to go save him from slavery. And then at the end of the movie, she becomes Batgirl. So technically speaking, Alfred would be serving her as well, but she's fine with that because they're family. There's so many things about this writing.
I guess she would realize that Alfred really does it because he enjoys it or cares for the family. But no. And yeah.
Also, what's Poison Ivy's deal? Why did she have to kill Freeze's wife, other than to make it a plot thing so that Freeze becomes like a good guy?
Well, isn't that actually that she has an interest in Mr. Freeze?
No.
Well, hear me out here. So you have the scene at the whatever it is when they're Wayne Enterprises offers their diamonds for some sort of charity or
the auction.
There's an auction, I get. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then she stumbles upon, or Poison Ivy arrives first at the scene, and she steals the diamonds. And then she stumbles upon Mr. Freeze and the love toxin, poison, whatever it is, doesn't work in him because his ice is ice cold, below 50 degrees.
Which is funny, just really quickly, because he warms up to something like below 0, but he couldn't warm up more than that. It's like, anyways, keep going. This fucking movie.
To me, like on a rewatch, I kind of gathered that she was just falling for him, not in a romantic way, really, because he was actually approachable and not just falling for her love spell. Might be far-fetched, but to me, that's why she actually has an interest in keeping him to herself. It could, however, be just for a selfish way, because she wanted to keep him as a minion rather than anything else, just like Bane.
So many questions about Poison Ivy.
Well, Poison Ivy to me is not the most interesting character. Like I will give the movie this. So the thing that I actually like about the film is Mr. Freeze's relationship to his wife. He goes through this intense experiment on trying to cure her rare disease that apparently Alfred has as well. Like, what are the odds? And he cures stage 1, which Alfred apparently has to be in.
It makes no... Keep going.
No. And he turns into Mr. Freeze, and well, I actually, it's not that I relate, that would be awful, but I feel the guy, like the pain that Mr. Freeze has. Maybe it's Arnold Schwarzenegger just being able to transfer these emotions through this suit of armor and weird costume design that the entire movie has. Maybe there's that, but maybe there's something to it that's just like, he's very approachable as a character, and I enjoy how I feel his pain as Poison Ivy kills the wife, and he goes into, I don't even know what, but I do enjoy that. Like the scenes that we have between Mr. Freeze and his wife, those are very sweet scenes, and even later on in the movie, when we start to realize that there might be a solution between the two, and they might be able to come together in a peaceful way, I'm down for that. That's sweet. That's the one thing the movie did well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it was all really nice up until like they did this like CGI tear coming out of Arnold Schwarzenegger's face.
Okay, so there's this scene when Arnold Schwarzenegger, full on makeup, a tear falls, right? Okay. You can't cry on command. Of course, you're Arnold Schwarzenegger and men don't cry. Of course. So we'll CGI a tear coming down your face. Actual liquid. And it doesn't freeze. Well, it does freeze. But then it fades away. It turns into ashes and just fades away.
Flies.
What is up with that?
Oh, man.
Like, this movie is... Okay, this movie is passable throughout.
Yes.
For the most part. But then we come to those shots like Batwoman, tits, and Mr. Freeze tear flies away. Yeah. And you're like, what is this movie? Why? What is that shot?
Honestly, part of like some of the parts where this movie makes me like really want to hang myself is the whole like Batman and Robin bickering at each other in
Oh,
like the only way that men in the 90s could bicker each other. Like Robin couldn't be like, bro, you don't trust me. I feel like underappreciated. I'm sad about that. And George, like Batman couldn't be like, dude, I'm worried about you because you're kind of like my son. It's like, no, it's like, you're jealous because I get all the chicks. And it's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just such a, and realistically, like you said, Chris O'Donnell, who's Robin, he is definitely the worst one in this movie. And it's like so blatantly sad when he, like, whenever he speaks, it's like, can we please skip to something else? It's just so,
And it's sad because I don't remember him being. Granted, I haven't seen Batman Forever in forever. Sorry, I haven't seen Batman Forever in forever, but I don't remember him being as bad. Which again comes back to the writing, the directing, anything possibly. I don't really know.
yeah.
However, I don't want to go into an entire tangent and rant about the different types of Batmans, but like the current Batman, who is acting the current Batman?
Robert Pattinson.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Okay, who was acting as Batman before Twilight's Mr. I'm So Pretty Boy decided
Look,
to...
that's kind of shady. All right, Robert Pattinson's he's good. He's a good actor. He just gets a lot of crap because of Twilight. But
well, he became
like
an actor in the Hollywood system because he was pretty and in Twilight and everything.
he did, but he hated that, and that's why he only makes like
That's
small
true.
movies and shit.
That's
Well, now
true.
he's Batman, so that kind of voids it. But like for a while there. Before him, it was Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. I mean, he's by far, and I think we all agree on that he's the worst Batman to date.
Yeah, he wasn't great.
No,
But I think George Clooney is worse, though.
I think George Clooney is pretty cool as Batman. He's got the posture. He's got the like. I'm Batman.
I think
In Nolan, whatever his face is again, the guy who
Christian
plays
Bale?
Batman. Yeah, the voice. What's up with the voice, my dude? Clooney is like he has the same like attitude as Batman as he does as Wayne. It works.
but it doesn't. That's the point. It doesn't work.
It works. The nipples are there. For whatever reason, the nipples are there. But everything else with the Clooney character, it's cool.
Really?
He's Batman and he's kind of hurt because of his parents and stuff. And that's why he doesn't want... He has commitment issues to this son that is Robin and Yellow Baby Clooney. Maybe I'm just too attracted to him, but I don't know.
I think that's it.
That's probably why.
Why
Why
do
don't... Yeah,
I
why
don't
do you
know.
hate him?
Because I think he's a cool Bruce Wayne. I think he's a cool Bruce Wayne.
Uh-huh.
I just don't think he's a great Batman. Because, well, I'll give him this, like, because of the suit and because of all the other things that we've spoken about in terms of the action scenes and shit. I guess I can give him a pass.
I feel like he's the actor out of the many that holds up. Nevertheless.
I like Keaton's Batman.
Yeah,
He's good too.
he's okay. He's okay.
Val Kilmer was not great either.
Who's that?
The Batman Forever.
Oh, they switched the Batmans?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's stupid.
George Clooney is not in Batman Forever, but Robin is the same Robin.
Yeah, right? Okay. And then even speaking about Bane. So I can
right.
respect that they have the the comic version of Bane in this movie, different from
Agreed.
the Nolan version of Bane. I never really liked him. He's cool as a character, but it's not Bane, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that he has this whatever they call it, the toxin that they put into it.
They just say it's venom. It's great.
It's venom. Uh-huh. And I like that. But he looks so small in comparison. He's not that big, muscular hunk of a dude.
Mm-mm.
He's just a dude walking around, making grunting noises, sounding like a caveman.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's not cartoon Bane.
No.
Right? Like cartoon Bane thinks and stuff. Like he's not just a grunt.
Yeah.
Also, like if he cannot, like if his brain doesn't have the processing power to say complete sentences, why would you trust him driving your car?
In full costume and everything. It seems like there's something, I don't really ever get it, but they push the button on his chest when he goes into like vengeance mode and he rips everything to pieces. There's something about that, and you're probably supposed to step out of the way of Bane at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Bane is not a good character at all in this film.
And he looks so bad, like in that close up where he grabs Clooney by the face, and you see like the paint job on his hand, and it looks like a 12-year-old did it, and it's sad.
You mean like everything else about in this film?
Except for the vehicles. The vehicles are cool.
They still look like plastic.
Except for Mr. Freeze's. That's pretty stupid. That's a pretty stupid car.
Yeah. No, I don't know. There's a lot of miniatures, but they work.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like most of the things, like especially in the first scene, it just looked like plastic. The ice looks bad. Poison Ivy's costume is never good. Neither is the plants. They're probably CGI most of the times. Doesn't look that great. No. Then again, like I enjoyed watching this film again. Yeah. I wouldn't say it holds up to today's standards, especially when Nolan came in and made his trilogy. Of course not.
Yeah.
But
I kind of fucked it.
I wouldn't call it a bad movie.
No, and like I said, I feel there's a charm. I don't know if it's because we watched it growing up, but I feel like there was a definite charm. And I there was never a point in this movie where I was like, I want to get up and turn it off, you know? And you and I talk a lot about, you know, how movies should be based upon what they were set out to do.
Yeah.
Like we did with Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Unfortunately for this movie and what it has going against it is that we don't know what it had going for it. There's so many conflicting things about it, right? Like it's supposed to be a movie for teenagers, but it has like the tone and everything for a kids movie. And then, you know, it has shitty acting from great actors, which makes no sense either. So then we're stuck in this like limbo where it's like, okay, what were you trying to do? Yeah. Like I don't get it.
Absolutely. So I'm still torn whether it's far from so bad it's good, because I wouldn't like to call it bad. It's just it is mediocre, but it's not mediocre bad. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to place this film. They're trying way too hard to be something that they aren't able to be, just because of all the conflicts that are. And it's sad. I would have loved to see a honed in, perfectly comical live action Batman movie. That would be dope, because we don't have that. And I think it's extremely hard to do live action.
You mean something like Lego Batman, but live action?
Yeah, because that's animation, and you have the freedom of like doing physically impossible things in animation. And
about
to
really
a
quickly.
point, I think you
Mhm.
are kind of restricted with the digital era that is when this film was shot. The visual effects doesn't look that great, and there's a lot of campy things that are because of the digital aspect of it all.
Mhm. Well, you just said the physically impossible things, and all I could think of was the wire work in this movie, especially in
Oh,
that first scene whenever they
yes.
jump. And for some reason, they feel the need to land like this and to
Mhm.
like fly around like this. It's
In the
insane.
T
It's
pose,
insane.
arms out, and everything.
Or
But again, I don't mind it. It's like,
it's part of it. It's part of
yes.
it, and that's the
Mhm.
silliness of like this era of stuff, like it's like Superman, realistically he could probably fly without putting his fist in front of him, you know
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
but there's something charming to it, and there's something so it's something so critical to the you know character. The character is that he flies around with
Mhm.
his fist in front of him. And here's the thing though, and going back to what you said about Wes Anderson really quickly. Wes Anderson is quirky.
Yeah.
That's the tone that he goes for, right?
Mhm.
This is just straight up fucking
Silly.
camp. Yeah, this is just like even the scientists, doctors who are frozen at the end of the movie,
Mhm.
they're campy too.
Oh yeah.
They're like they have 5 lines and
Yeah.
they're so campy in their delivery to them, which sucks.
And for some reason, they managed to hold off on this cannon as they fall like an entire kilometer down into an endless hole that is in the middle of Gotham for some reason.
Also, I love how Batgirl is like, "What do we do now?" And Robin's like, "Pray."
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Also, I don't understand the whole Batgirl thing.
The Batgirl
Like,
thing.
she finds out about the Batcave
Oh yeah.
because
Mhm.
she hacks into
Yeah.
Alfred's
Uh-huh.
disk or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, she's supposed to be like a computer genius or whatever, and one of her tries for passwords is England. Like, are you?
Well, they're English. You wouldn't understand.
Anyways, but from what I understand of this movie, the disc is not meant for her,
Mhm.
right? It's meant to go to Alfred's brother.
Mhm.
Because in my head, it's like he thinks if he dies, his brother will drop everything he's doing
Yeah.
and become
Yeah.
like the new Bruce Wayne butler.
Yep. Yeah.
So then she opens this thing, and that's how she finds out they're Batman and Robin. And then, like, does she just spend all of her time trying to find the Batcave?
No, I think. Well, you get like blueprints on the Batmobile and the Bat airplane, the Bat chopper, the Bat shark repellent, the Bat,
Yeah.
and I would assume that there's like a instruction manual to maybe like the architecture of the building, so she can
Okay.
easily find it. Right?
Sure. And then she goes into the cave. Alfred appears and
Yeah.
he's like, I uploaded my brain
Yep.
into the computer, which
Mhm.
damn, he like this is what I'm saying, man. He has the skill to help build the gadgets, to help make the costumes, to upload his fucking brain into a computer. And he has a 3-letter password on this like huge secret, like
Yeah. Well, you gotta give him some cred. Like it was always clear that like she was gonna figure it out. Of course, he had made her a costume, like
2
costumes. Yeah.
2 costumes because they switch to their winter edition costumes.
with just silver accents here and there.
And then she has like she goes to save them from poison ivy.
Yeah.
She only has the what's it called?
The goggles or like the mask,
The eye mask, I guess.
eyepiece. Yeah, sure.
There's a word for it, but whatever. So the eye mask. And then they get rid of poison ivy and they're like, "Oh, it's probably colder now. We should go switch." So they change into the silver edition Batman outfits for your enjoyment, kids. And then she has the whole cowl, like the whole bat mask, which is how her character usually is. She has it on for 5 seconds as they drive to Mr. Freeze, and then they get there and she takes it off.
Yep.
Like what the fuck?
Well, that's a toy set right there. Put it in the film.
Yeah, pretty much. Because
Pretty
like
much.
I asked my dad about it, and he was like, "Well, it's like a helmet, right?" But then she takes it off, and it's like this flimsy ass piece of shit.
It's true. Yes. Yeah.
So then my dad turns to me and he was like, "Yeah, that's not a helmet." And I was like, "No, it is not."
I feel like they were just trying to make a nod to like the classical portrayal, the silhouette of Batwoman. I assume,
Mm.
but it doesn't really justify it. No.
No. Or like this is towards the end when they all like they beat Mr. Freeze. Batman's like, "You're going to jail." And then he's like, "Fucking just kill me like you killed my wife."
Yeah.
He's like, "No,
Yeah.
I can't. I won't kill you. I need you to help me save my friend." Who is in stage 1
Yeah.
of this
McGregor
disease, but he
disease.
is like so close to dying. What's stage 2? Like,
And who calls it McGregor disease? I mean,
Oh
I
my
know
God.
it's called from the dude, but that's an awful name. Who came up with that? Give him
I
a
know.
promotion, please.
So then Freeze is like, he conveniently always carries around the cure for this very rare disease.
Yes. What else
So he
could
pulls
it
them out.
be? Yeah.
Exactly. It's like he's designing this suit and he's like, "You know what I need?
Uh-huh.
I need to carry around this cure."
Yeah.
You never know, bro. Like,
The
I might run
anti-venom.
into some dude and they might need it.
Oh my god. You know, while watching it, I let all of these plot holes just like pass because it is what it is. But when you bring it up in hindsight, oh my
It's
god.
It's just insane. And then I love how it's like, take 2 of these and then call me in the morning. Okay. So they give Alfred the medicine, and then you cut to the living room of Wayne Manor, and their suits are like all over the place. Like there's pieces of the bat suit and the Robin suit and the Batgirl suit around the
Yeah.
Wayne Manor living room. And I know it's not like they're gonna care because it's not like people are gonna walk in or whatever. But how do the physics of that work? They are they were on 3 different vehicles that they have to get to the Batcave in, and then once you're in the Batcave, they're like, "Nah, we'll keep them on," and then they go all the way up and then take them off in the living room, or what the? Or did they like? Do they choose to walk in the front door and then take them off? I think it just makes no sense to me. Also, does this mean that they wear clothes underneath the suit? Or were they just like, fuck it, we know each other enough? Like,
Is this just your perfectionism kicking in and you
I
cannot
just don't
take
get it,
people
man.
just
It's like,
undressing and putting clothes everywhere? Like
you and
they've
me.
been through hell. Of course they're gonna be tired and not care more about putting up their suit correctly.
I'm just saying, dude, it just makes no sense. Okay. If
Uh-huh.
they were sure, they're gonna take off the suit, but they would have done it in the Batcave. Like,
Oh, yeah.
because Alfred is in stage 1 of this disease. So it's not like he's gonna die that day if they don't give him the fucking antidote, right? Or like, just how does this disease work? Because he goes from being a little bit in pain to being bedridden,
Yeah.
and then it's like, but this is stage 1. Like, I don't get it. Like, you and I recently recorded an episode that will be hint coming out soon, and we talk about Ari Aster movies and how he is so fucking detail oriented and how he thinks all of these things through.
Yeah.
And that just makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
Because you're putting so much work into these movies. Like, making a movie, sure, it's glamorous, and sure, it's not necessarily like, I don't want to sound like making a film is impossible or like it's the hardest job ever, but it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort. So like, when people just disregard all of these shit, it irks me. It irks me so much because it makes no sense.
But as you said, the film was rushed. You have 2 years to film, to edit, to
Write a script.
write a script. Like, that takes time. On top of that, I think we have established that the studio is weighing heavily on the entire process of this. So we are not too sure of like how much time they had to record it, contra edit it, contra pre-production. Like, maybe it was rushed throughout and it was just tough making a decent film, because I guess decent is a good word to describe this movie. If that, yes, but it's still like, it's okay. It's an okay film, and it would make a lot of sense if they were just pressured mostly, but also pushed on time to push this godforsaken movie out.
Yeah, it's a shit show. Alrighty. So I think we've shat enough on this movie for an episode. Realistically, and I feel our ratings will help clarify what we think about this movie. There's just so many things about it that you can shit on, I guess. I'm actually surprised, considering that in my book I would say I like this movie more than Shark Boy and Lover Girl. But
yeah,
I'm still surprised. Anyways, Algot, so with everything we've said, what is your rating for this movie?
that's a good way to put it. It's I think it does hold a dear heart in both yours and mine. Yes, because it's a movie that we saw when we grew up, and you're never ever gonna see those films in the same way as you did when you were a kid. But Batman and Robin, 1997. Well, the sound editing is passable. The editing is passable. The acting is passable. The costume design is barely passable. The directing is barely passable. But considering it has a lot of puns, and I can respect that, I'll give Batman and Robin 2 out of 5 stars.
That's nice. Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, for sure. I feel I'm on that same boat. This movie is not good. It's not well made. There's the script is bad. The acting's not great. The production design, whatever they kept from the Burton films is great, but whatever they introduce is no bueno. Yeah, there's just nothing good about this movie.
No.
And the only reason this movie is getting my rating is because there is a charm to this like comical side of superhero movies that we don't get to see anymore. And the fact that yes, you and I watched this movie growing up a lot, so that's why it gets 2 stars. those are the 2 stars that it gets. If not for those reasons, I don't even know what I would give it.
Is this the first time we rate the movie exactly the same?
I think so.
I think so.
It's one of the first ones for sure. Yeah. But yeah,
Nice.
2 stars. 2 stars for sure.
I think it's deserving 2 stars because it's not awful. It's mediocre, but it's not. It's okay. It's okay. It falls into the category of passable. That's just it, realistically. But I wish there were to be a Batman specifically film in the future that actually nails the comic style. You have a lot of animated Batman films, of course, but I would like to see a live action movie that manages to be what Batman and Robin is trying to be. That would be really fun. That would be really fun.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of potential in terms of Batman films. You know, like there just has to be a balance, you know, because it's a character created in a different time. There's a lot of quirkiness to it.
Yeah.
But you know, we've seen ways of it working, like specific parts of it. You know, like in the Batman video games, the gadgets aren't silly. They make sense, you know, and they're cool. And in the animated series, we see Batman being a mentor to Robin and Batgirl, and that makes sense. Yeah, sure, it's a questionable thing that there's a 12-year-old boy running around in tights, but it works in the animated series, and I feel like you're right. There is a lot of potential in terms of the different sides of Batman that could be explored, other than the dark and broody aspect.
I think what the fault of this film specifically is that they're just trying to take a comic book or a graphic novel, whatever you want to call it, and completely apply it onto live action film form, and that just doesn't work. It doesn't apply. It doesn't transform well.
Our conversation is over on Batman and Robin.
You're welcome.
Our cup of coffee is over as well. Thank you so much for joining us. 10 episodes in, and hopefully more to come.
10 to go.
Yeah. Algot, how about you outro us now?
Outro. Well, we both have accounts on this lovely platform called Letterboxd. Why don't you follow us on there, as well as follow us on Spotify, follow us on iTunes. I don't care if you don't have an Apple account, create one and follow us on iTunes podcasts. Follow us on Google. You don't have a Google account either? Well, create one and follow us on Google Podcasts and every other podcast platform there is. There's a heck of a lot. I can't go on all day. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't? Oh, you do have a YouTube account? Oh, yeah. No, subscribe to us on YouTube. And we will talk about more movies next time as we'll release the 11th episode of Films and Fika podcast. Oh, I like that. That could be like our new jingle.
Like the little jingle.
Yeah.
We'll record it.
Podcast. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Algot. It was fun.
It's been nice to talk to you.
Keep working on that. It's getting better. I think you should. This is definitely something you should keep working at.
That's the kind of support I need.
Alrighty. See ya.
Goodbye.